So today we are debating whether or not Game of Thrones is a good or bad show.
I mean, I feel like I'll be arguing, is it the greatest show of all time?
Okay, that oh my goodness. Okay. Of all time.
Well, or like one of, yeah.
I didn't know the stakes were that high, and I didn't know I was dating a buffoon.
Okay, well, should I start first then? I think we were just going to do like a minute of pure debate, like 1 minute for me, 1 minute for you, and then I feel like this will be more fun as like an open, because I mean, like, it's a little more subjective than normal. So
you're going to go first?
I guess,
Typical, okay. I'm just kidding.
You're going to time me for the minute?
On your mark, get set, go.
Okay, well, I mean, it's just an amazing show. I don't even have that many facts. Okay, a couple of facts I'm going to spew out is that it's like one of the most watched shows ever. They clock in like 25.1 million, I think up to 30 million when you include like all the different places of people who are watching it. It's like the most torrented show. And one interesting thing about Game of Thrones is that the audience grows like every single season. Unlike something like The Walking Dead where it's like lost audience because it's like boring. Sorry, no offense. It's just like a show that is constantly growing and leading towards something and getting really exciting. Like I said before, best theme song and intro of any show. It's literally a cultural phenomenon. It's made people read. Like, what more could we ask for people
seconds.
to be more interested in reading? Thank you for the show to get people to go back to the book, which is exactly what I did. It's finite. It doesn't get lazy and repetitive, and it doesn't always rely on like explosions and stuff. It's like, it's nuanced. It's about conversation. It has so many strong female protagonists, and ultimately it has only gotten better over time, like a good fine wine. Bam.
Okay, wow. Put me up.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'll go right into this.
Greg, for the con, starting now.
Okay, audience growing. It's called peer pressure. It's because everyone is saying that this show is amazing, and I am going to be a whistleblower, okay? I'm going to say something that needs to be said more often. It's boring. It's literally so boring. The amount of times that I was falling asleep beside Mitch and then feeling so awful and him be like storming away, being like, I can't believe you fell asleep, but us fighting because I'm like, I can't keep my eyes open. There's no lighting in this show. It's just darkness. I don't know who's ever like frickin' accents blending together. It's humorless. It is devoid of humor. They have like, I guess like that, what is that weird, the Ophi dude. The one who was with Arya for a while. The one who was like with her, like he's like an oaf. It's like, I guess he's funny. He's just like this like good dude. He has like no character development. Oh my god, you're talking about there's strong female characters. It's the whitest show I've ever seen. There's dragons. What, you couldn't just like randomly put in people of different races? It's like, if we want to get into the whole like, you know, identity politics of this show, it is a literal mess.
Okay, I see where you're coming from on the race issue.
It's truly the whitest show of all time. And what could be whiter? Lord of the Rings. And just frustrates me. I'm like, you're living in this world of fantasy. You like randomly have like dragons show up and like blow the house down, and there's like a green explosion of goo or whatever. It's like, you can't just like, I don't know, like for a second think, oh, maybe we could just have diverse actors and everyone could just buy into this because we don't need to create something.
I assumed you'd bring up that point. I'm not even going to try to rebut it. It is a very white show. There are not only white people on the show, I'll put it that way. Like, there are different diversity. There's people of color on the show of all different races, but not
any of the main characters and my 4.5 slog of seasons that I had to watch.
You're right, actually. I don't know that any of the main family protagonists, but there are some main characters that are not white, but I would agree that they're not the main characters.
Okay, there's
None of them are like, have a seat on the throne kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, that's a problem.
Okay, but let's talk about the show as a show.
Okay.
Because we can agree on that point. What makes you think it's so boring?
Literally, I always was just like, I found the way that they spoke like so slow. I'm like, I found that it was
you just need to watch at 1.5 speed.
Maybe I do. I found that it was like confusing. I'm like, okay, which random dude with like wearing wolf fur as this
really
that I should care about?
That confusing. So
and
I
then
think
it's like,
this is a you problem.
Oh wow, I love him so much. Oh, slice his throat, he's dead. Okay, well, what am I supposed to root for?
Well, you know what I find really interesting, and I'll say two things. One of my favorite parts about this show is how it starts with a narrative that's like fairly classic of this genre of having like the good guys, the bad guys, and it slowly blends that so much over the course of the whole series where like there are people that I absolutely hated that now are my favorite characters, and there are people that I love that you see go another way and that you're acting like you hate now. And I think that's a really interesting thing. I don't know if I've said this on the podcast before, but one proposition someone gave to me or I read online once before was like Game of Thrones is the aftermath of a classic Disney or classic Hollywood tale. So at the beginning of Game of Thrones, you have the good guys have just won the biggest war ever. Like the Baratheons and the Starks have come together. They pulled the whole realm. The North and the South are bonded. And now they've grown old and they're like old men who remember this like great war that they fought in. And that's how most movies end, is like after the war they won. But Game of Thrones is the follow-up of like how that can't stay. Nothing stays the same. And it's sort of like the story after the fairy tale ending, which then goes into the story of like the literal Game of Thrones about how like when you fought a huge war and battle to win something, it doesn't end there. Like always there's
and in this battle for Game of Thrones, everyone is white. But okay. Okay. The one time you did tell me that, I was like, okay, finally some ounce of meaning in this godforsaken mess of a show. So
why don't you first of all try reading a book before you judge it?
I will. I read books, not those.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. You're not judging a book. You're judging a book by its cover.
Not
which
those
is
books.
A TV show.
Okay. I've also heard the books are talking my head falls. So what is the point? Because that is like, when I think of an amazing show, I think of like Breaking Bad. It's like, okay, that's supposed to be a chemical reaction showing the
That's
full.
That's not what it's supposed to be.
It's the full transformation of this good, wholesome nuclear family dad into this purely evil person in this nuanced 5-season arcs. This is exactly what we are trying to say. This is so interesting. Even Pen 15, it's like, okay, we're trying to show you about vulnerability, trying to like access the fact that you can feel these like raw emotions that we can all relate to and find some comfort in the fact that other people went through this same thing that we did in our like worst stage.
Here's what I'll say.
What is the point of this dragon nonsense?
So, okay, I actually think this is interesting and why Game of Thrones is really unique. So there are definitely themes and there are definitely poignant moments that bring about points within episodes or within seasons.
Like...
Well, I just mean like you can obviously find like the kinship of like struggling with people and like the idea of having to be honorable versus like doing the thing that you believe is right and breaking away from your family and I don't know, all these different levels.
Are we kings? None of us are kings.
No, but
like the queen can relate.
People still have these problems. I think the themes are universal. But what I think is most interesting is that the show doesn't follow the convention of having to have a specific moment. And I think the books do that well.
What?
It's like okay, I love the show Pen 15. I love all those other shows you're mentioning and that they kind of like tell a story and like here's the beautiful, perfect picture. But just like I said, this is after the fairy tale and there is no beautiful, perfect picture ever. And life sometimes is brutish and life sometimes has a story that you think is telling you one narrative and then that narrative just ends. And so I think there's kind of like a metaphor here for it being a little more realistic in that there are... You know, you can pull out metaphors, you can pull out meaning throughout, but there's no one through line other than a narrative that's you're interested in the characters and compelled by
it sounds like you're
what
really good at justifying like a writer's room who's like, we'll just see what sticks.
Okay,
like,
great.
Oh, here's some incest, here's some rape, here's some like...
What does it mean when something's like the most popular show of all time? Like,
I think
you can't tell me it's just bad.
I think it means that when you literally aren't afraid to create extreme violence, like incest, rape, all these like almost like grotesque, insane. It's like what we were talking about last week with conspiracy theories. It's like, yeah, if you really want to tap into that like market, like people are gonna be shocked.
Okay, but you are absolutely selling it short. When you say that, there is violence, there is controversial...
Okay, well, we should talk about that specific... There was a horrible rape scene in Game of Thrones, which I read a lot about. That's a really problematic thing.
Yeah, I think there are definitely problems with the way they've chosen to do some things in the show, some things that did not happen in the books that they've put in the show.
So I don't think it should go down as the best show of all time, because there's other shows that don't have...
I guess to me, as like... as a piece of entertainment, because I've read like 3 of the books. I haven't read all of them. I really enjoyed them too, and so it adds up to the lore of me enjoying it as like a franchise. But yeah, like
that was really messed up. I didn't watch that season, but the way
show,
I read about it was awful.
The amount of like female nudity that they show, but not male nudity. Like not that I'm like
oh my god,
but it's like unnecessary.
In the comeback, the newer season when she's like imitating Game of Thrones and she's like standing beside the 2 women, like it's true. In the earlier seasons, you're like, why is all these like these women
like,
just always have their shirts on?
Yeah,
and I guess sometimes we see some dick and we see some butt, but it's not even.
It's kind of like an HBO thing. Like they do that in Westworld.
It's an issue across HBO.
I don't know, like because I mean, you said Breaking Bad. I love that show. It's amazing. But it also has extreme violence. The first season, like, catches you. It grips you because it's, like, actually so tense and intense. Like, it's not just a beautiful story about a man's
But the violence
struggle.
is, like, really integral to the, like, plot and to showing, like, the stakes and where he's going to go as a person.
Why is that different here? I agree the nudity is
because
unnecessary.
the nudity, there's a
violence.
specific rape scene against Sansa
Mm-hmm.
Stark, which was not necessary. It wasn't even in the book. They used it as advertising to kind of be like, something really big happens in the middle of the season, and it was like it cuts to the man instead of her. Like, they're trying to show her pain, but it apparently cuts to the man, like, reaction pain. It's directed by so many men. That to me sounded like a really disgusting use of that, like, trope to create stakes, which weren't necessary. And I'm taking this from you arguing other people exactly my point. You've talked about how you thought that scene was really problematic.
Of course, yeah.
Wasn't even
I'm not disagreeing with that.
So that's just like something where I'm like,
but
if
I
you're
can
willing
see
to
something
do
as
that,
a whole, like I can see. I think it's okay to look at something and point out its flaws and still enjoy. So long as the flaws aren't like so
that sounds
bad.
like a pretty big flaw.
No, I agree. It was a misstep. But I just mean, like, in the whole of the show, I think, like, they probably learned from that, and I think the rest of the show, and not that there aren't
the
other
last season
mistakes.
better have a bunch of dicks. That's all I gotta say. Make up for lost time. Dicks, dicks,
there are
flapping,
dicks.
flapping.
A dick gets cut off in one of the seasons you haven't watched. So.
That's satisfying. No, I have watched that.
Oh, you did watch
yeah,
that?
I saw a dick get cut off of that,
okay.
like, guy who's like Lily Allen's brother.
I mean, I wouldn't know.
I think so. Yeah.
But I don't know. I just think, like, I think
you love it. You watch YouTube videos of it, like, when the trailer came out.
Because the new season's coming out, I, like, love to watch fan theories. Because at this point, once the show caught up with the books, I was like, okay, no one actually knows, so it's fun. I don't want to get spoilers.
The like final battle scene, they filmed 3, right, so that no one could know which one they used.
Yeah.
And apparently, the actors would get their scripts on an iPad, and then it would be like deleted off their iPad, like literally burned from existence at the end of the day, so that they couldn't ever be contributing to spoilers, or you couldn't have a physical copy.
Right.
And they said it was
Like,
so hard to act.
Yeah.
Like, there's
Like, if
something
you have to
about that
memorize it immediately.
Yeah, it excites me. Like, I do miss. I'm so mad I watched Breaking Bad after. Like, I remember, like, we had a roommate.
Heard the cultural stuff. Like, every time, like, an episode in the final season would air, everyone
was going to bars to watch it.
Would be like, oh my God, did you watch Breaking Bad? We'd be like, we don't watch that show.
So I'm a little bit disappointed that I'm not going to be able to be a part of this, like, giant
you could
cultural
still. I think that's
phenomenon.
what's fun for me too. Like, there are only, to me, and maybe there are more, but there are only a handful of shows that people still do that for. Where I feel like
RuPaul's Drag Race.
Well, yeah, but even that is not like it happened. Definitely, people have like online momentum for RuPaul's, but it's not the same.
But we go to
like,
bars to watch that,
and it's not the same as a narrative show. Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
that's true.
I feel like an amazing narrative show can do something to people where. You know, to a degree, it's in the control of the writers. Like, whereas a reality show,
it's not always
goes
going to
one
be
way or the
good,
other.
yeah.
You don't depend on it in the same way. Whereas
Yeah.
a scripted show, you're like, what
Someone's
are they going to do?
crafted this,
And
yeah.
I hope this ends up perfectly the way I want it to. And so, yeah, being part of that, like through the past couple seasons, I just found like so satisfying to like see everyone's reactions, be part of it, and knowing where we're at now, and just being like, this freaking show that is so popular is just going to end, and that's going to be such a weird experience.
Well,
like,
it ended for me.
but are there other shows like that for you
No,
that you've
you're
watched
right.
that are
You're
narrative
right.
that you're like kind of scared and sad for them to end because they'll leave? Like for
Oh,
me,
Broad City, I'm sad as
oh, that's true,
Yeah.
and that's
but that's
ending
not
right
nearly
now too.
as
But yeah,
like,
narrative
the
is not as
stakes.
narrative driven.
No one's died in that yet.
And like, yeah, for me, like obviously that'll happen for Survivor, which is not narrative driven, but I've been watching it for like literally 20 years. So like,
I don't think Survivor's ever going to end. Jeff Probst is going to be. He's going to get
it's gonna
Botox
just
till he's
be
89.
like such a Botox monster.
His face is not moving too much these days. No shade.
Yeah, so I think I know you don't have a lot of time. This is going to come out,
You think I
probably
should?
in a couple
I'm
weeks
not
from
gonna
when we
watch
record
it.
it. I don't. You've been saying maybe you would. I would absolutely at least go back to like season 5, 6, 7 and watch them if we could. I just don't know if you're prepared to watch that much TV, even though I would.
Well, I'm not
rewatch that much
prepared to
TV.
snooze alert. I'm going to fall
Okay,
asleep.
if that's actually how you feel, then you shouldn't watch it. But you are. I know you're going to be so annoyed.
so
when
annoyed,
it's
and
on.
I'm going to probably go and watch it.
And it's
Is
one of
Arya
those,
still alive?
I'm not telling you. It's one of those things where like you will miss out and you will never be able to get that back. Like the most famous show of the last like 10 years is about to end and everyone's going to experience it together and that will never happen
Well,
again.
every night at that time, I'm going to close my eyes, take a bath, draw a bath, sit there with some Epsom salts, and you know what? I'm just going to relax. That's what I'm going to do.
like me and all my friends are in the basement like,
No, I'm honestly like I am. I'm feeling foam. I have FOMO to the max. Okay, so let's end this by you telling right now. It'll be locked in history. What do you think is going to happen in the end of the show?
Okay, I don't have like a hard prediction, but I what I'm worried about is that it's going to be a happy ending. And that, like John.
That's going to go against what you think the meaning is.
Yeah, because if it wraps up in that way, what I could see maybe happening, someone convinced me that it could wrap up in a happy way.
Because isn't that kind of like the beginning where it's like the.
Right, it's kind of like the message could be like the Game of Thrones never ends. Like they could maybe win in the second last episode and then the last episode.
Or the last scene is just
off.
like one of them getting beheaded and then it ends. It's like.
True. Yeah. Or like the beginning of another thing that like we didn't see coming and now it's just like, oh. The Game of Thrones never ends. That could be a message. Okay. But I also would kind of be so into... Well, no, it's
I'm kidding. And we don't need
I'd
to go
also
back.
be into this idea that just like the White Walkers win and it's just like... I don't know what the message of that is other than like sometimes things don't go as planned and... I'm excited this season we're going to learn about the White Walkers. I think they've represented...
Even the White Walkers are white.
True. Some of them are trolls. Okay. Easy. But I think we've always seen them as pure evil. And now the show has a chance, and I imagine the books too, to be like, they're also nuanced. This thing, like, in the beginning, you see certain people as pure evil.
Like, they're going to be like, my kid just got
they
killed.
must have a motivation. Otherwise, it's bad story writing if, like, these things, all they want to do is just kill.
So I'm thinking it's going to be the bad storytelling one. They're just going to kill. They're just going to look at the camera viciously with their, like, what color are their eyes? Blue?
Why is that bad storytelling?
Isn't that what you just said?
Like,
if
we
they just, like, win
find
and
out.
we never find out. They're just pure evil.
We're going to find out about... Because we know a little bit about the White Walkers
oh my God,
and
maybe
how they
it'll...
were created.
No, I can't do a spoiler of us. I'm like, maybe they're the tethered, but that doesn't make sense. Imagine.
Okay. No,
imagine they're like the Game of Thrones people like us comes out and they're like, oh my God, damn, we gotta rewrite it. Oh God.
No, I think I'm excited. Last season was a little iffy. It was not my favorite because they kind of...
Didn't you say they all of a sudden started to show up in random places?
Yeah,
where
the tone and pacing of the show
That's sketchy.
Showed that they needed to get through so much. But anyway, that's my prediction is a messy ending that is sort of poignant, but we're left being like... not with just like a perfect happy ending.
Okay, so what I think is going to happen is Arya is going to like find some sort of like...
Arya's dead.
What? Oh my God. I was about to like flip this table and just be
You've
like,
seen
wow.
the trailer.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure Arya is not dead. Arya's going to find some weird potion. She's going to drink it. She's going to be able to go back in time to the Red Wedding, and she's going to be able to like fix all that, bring back her family, bring back everyone, and it's going to start.
Oh, you missed a
end
really satisfying Arya Red Wedding redemption arc.
Really? Okay, I'll watch that. It's on YouTube. I'll watch that.